It is 9:38 a.m. and I had one trade with TXTM. This wasn't like best setup. It was a gap down morning panic bounce play. So as you can see, I had a closer at 51ish, and then we opened at a much lower level, 45, and we did have a little bit of a panic. It got as low as 42, but it started to hold itself ultimately and trade around the same range. So when it looked like it was trying to break out of this range, this 45 level, that's when I was long 20,000 shares at 933, and that was right here. I was in 20,000 shares. It did uptrend. It just doesn't seem like it has the same amount of momentum as it did before, and there were a bit too many sellers at the ask, but I did sell half of my position. It wasn't at 47, it was at 47 and a half, even though it shows here 48 at 935, and that was a sell right here, which was a pretty good sell for what it was against selling it while it was still on the uptrend. But I'm not too happy with my last piece because I didn't allow it to break this trend line that I made. I kind of sold at 935, the other piece as well. And yeah, even though I sold at 47 right there and it did ultimately just 2 minutes later break under the trend line, I would have liked it if I held on to it, because if this thing would have went to 50, that would have really stunk, and that would have been my fault for selling the last piece when it hasn't broken the trend line. So besides that, this was a setup and I took it, and yeah, that was clearly something I could have done better. Now it has dropped and maybe it's holding VWAP, so perhaps it could try to build support and then try to make a move and re-break this 48 level. That's totally possible too, but I'm just going to continue to look at it for now, and I don't see anything else, but I will make an update later. It is 9:05 p.m. and I'm here to call it off. Overall, I'm going to be up on the day $10.93, and that was because I traded TXTM and BMIX, which I have to go over. The main thing I had to do differently was that I needed to trade more size, because both of these, when I calculated them in my spreadsheet, was roughly a $20 loss. So if I'm in the setup with either one of these two and worst case scenario happens, I'm out 20 bucks. I should have had more size so that it would equal to the $30 risk level. So that's clearly something I need to keep working on. And I did trade BMIX. And why did I trade BMIX? Well, it's a stock that's been uptrending but for a very long time, and it did get as high as this 275 level, which was pretty impressive the other day. And today was the official first red day. There wasn't a point where I really wanted to trade it in the morning because it just wasn't looking that nice, but it was downtrending overall from the 22s as low as this 14 level, which is pretty massive in terms of percent difference. And it just continued the downtrend. And when it got to the point that it broke this downtrending trend line that I had, and I saw like a reversal in the level 2, I did buy, and I bought exactly 10,000 shares at 1021, and that was at 151. So 1021 was right here, and I got in at 151 because it did break that trend line, which isn't visible unless I keep it with extended hours, because that's the way I had it initially. And it did uptrend, and I stuck to the idea of selling a portion while it was uptrending, and I did sell in multiple pieces. I did sell my first piece, just 2,000 shares at a time, at 155 at 1021. So a bit later when it was starting to uptrend. And then right at the 1023 level, I did sell 2,000 more shares at 157. So that was right here. And then it eventually got to a point where I think if I can just provide a screenshot, it might look a bit better or easier to read. It did get to a point where ultimately, and it seems like I need to update this because I did sell more than 2 times. I had an uptrending trend line from here to here, and then when it broke past it, that's when I started to sell the last pieces, and that was exactly what I happened to do at 1024, which is right here. I did get out of my entire position at 157. It didn't do much more. This was not realistic. This thing didn't get all the way up there, but it did get as high as 162 on a weird uptrend. If I were to have held much longer, I could have taken it again when it started to break this level right here. It kind of broke it, came back under, and then when it was breaking it again, I could have been in at 165 for a goal for it to break past VWAP, which is what it did here. And it did get as high as 21, which is pretty massive. And I want to be able to be more aggressive to be able to be a part of this. I didn't really see any of this when it was uptrending. I started to do other things, and that was really it in terms of setups. As for TXTM, it did get much lower. It didn't show any opportunity or any chance that it was going to reverse and hold VWAP minus this little wick right here. But it did turn around over a longer period of time. That isn't something I would have been interested in trading. And yeah, that's pretty much it. You might say WNFT is the same setup or it just downtrends and then it breaks a trend line, but the chart does not really support it when you compare WNFT to BMIX, which is something that's been uptrending for a pretty long time, and this one is just not really doing anything like that. So yeah, that's about it. I could have tackled BMIX later when it started to break past VWAP, and I should have had more shares on both of the trades. Otherwise, I think the rest was pretty good, and I'm glad that I still see things that I have to keep getting better at. That's all I have for today.